Hi to everyone from Girls in Tech watching. As you know, Girls in Tech is a nonprofit organization, the central mission of taking STEM education and spreading the word, getting more girls involved in technology in all shapes, forms, and highlighting the many different careers that exist in technology. So for this month, I'm joined by the trailblazer, Professor Monica Singer. Really such a phenomenal woman. I've had the pleasure of hearing her speak at a conference just once, and that was enough to leave a mark. So without further ado, I will let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so awesome to be here, especially because this is about us girls and sharing, as much as we can to become each other, successful. Because you know what, if we don't do it with each other, nobody's going to do it for us, So, and I believe in the power of the collective, and I believe in you have to help everybody that you can to succeed. And this is a great platform. So Radiyya, thank you very much for this opportunity. So in a nutshell, I confess I'm a baby boomer, even though I don't look one. Okay, but I am. The point is, why I'm making this point is because I carry with me a lot of years of experience. So I'm a chartered accountant by training. And I always wanted to be in an industry that will eliminate corruption and fraud. So if you have a look at my career, after I finished my training in articles in auditing, I joined the Institute of Chartered Accountants. I became the technical director of the Institute. Why? Because I was hoping that if I could write the audit and accounting standards for the profession, we could enhance auditing and accounting procedures so that the auditors will ensure that there was no fraud. The truth be told is that, we didn't achieve those goals because humans being human, all the audit controls can be overridden if there is collusion. So we live in a country with huge corruption. So we know very well that if there's collusion, there are no auditors and there are no controls that will actually achieve, the elimination of fraud and corruption. So after working for the Institute, I left to work for the World Bank. So just imagine, I went to work for the biggest in traditional finance entity in the world. The World Bank is a very bad organization because they don't really want to help anybody. They just want to help themselves, I'm sorry to say. Read the book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And that will tell you, if you want to know about the World Bank, how bad it is. And I stayed there in 1995, 96 in Washington, D.C., working for the Central Accounting Department and covering lots of frauds and corruption, and feeling very sad for myself, thinking, if the World Bank is so involved in corruption, then God help us. So I left, I came back to South Africa, and they came and they asked me at the stock exchange, they said, could you please convert the South African financial markets from paper-based, at that time in 1995, 96, there were still share certificates and checks, and we needed to convert everything electronic. And that's what I did. It was a massive change management program in technology. Imagine trying to convince the brokers, the listed companies, the stock exchange, the central bank, the banks, that they needed to change from paper to electronic. It was huge. I created a company called Strate, S-T-R-A-T-E, and this is the central securities depository that centralizes all the ledgers and all the information in the stock market, and we do the clearing and settlement of all the transactions in the stock market. That includes equities, bonds, and money market instruments. And then we do all the dividends and the corporate actions. So it became a very successful company. But there were still things that I had not been able to achieve in terms of transparency, in terms of democracy, in terms of the rights of the investors and the issuers. So what happened was in 2016, I read Satoshi Nakamoto's paper, the white paper on Bitcoin, which everybody must read. And that's when I literally started crying, because Satoshi says that we all got it totally wrong. We do not centralize the information, you decentralize. What does it mean? You don't create silos and intermediaries that hold the record. You allow every single person to hold the record and the record must be completely transparent. So today, if you transact in Bitcoin, you'll be able to go into the ledger of Bitcoin and see your transaction in real time. That doesn't happen in any stock market in the world. You're not able to see that in real time, impossible. It's not transparent, it's held by your intermediaries who charge you rent, charge you cost. It's not only costly, but very much a monopoly, and therefore you cannot get away from all these charges. And therefore, when I read this paper, I went to the board, I said, guys, I think we need to change what we're doing more in line with Satoshi's vision. You can imagine that my board said, are you smoking some marijuana? Because really, this is stupid, what you're saying. Why was it stupid in their minds? Because Strate was a natural monopoly, completely cash flush, and therefore, why should they re-engineer the financial markets? And I said to them, you know what, listen to me carefully what I'm going to tell you. If you do not re-engineer in the way I'm suggesting, what's going to happen is that the listed companies are going to say this is not good enough anymore. We're going to delist and we're going to find other ways to source capital. When I left in 2017, there were 650 companies listed on the JSE. Today, there's less than 220. And what happened in the stock exchange in South Africa, it's happening around the world. This is a natural monopoly that is being destroyed because they are not able to get on with the program. What is the program? The program is really this concept of Web3. What is Web3? It's the ability that each person will have its own wallet, and each person will become independent from a stock exchange, from a bank. You become your own bank, you become your own financial institution, actually. And if you want to, you can still outsource to someone else. But in reality, you don't need to outsource to anybody. You can do everything yourself. And then at that time, in 2017, we didn't even know about decentralized finance. DeFi only came to the market in 2018. What's DeFi? DeFi is simply a computer program, a protocol, whereby it has the same functionality as a stock exchange, but it's controlled by no one. It's open source, and anybody can create a token and list it, trade it, without any questions asked. So imagine that model of DeFi against the traditional stock exchanges with all the silos and the lack of transparency and the risk and the delays, because when you trade on a traditional exchange, it takes 3 days for you to get a settlement. Not only that, what happens is that the costs are horrific because there's so many intermediaries. You don't really know what's going on with your record of ownership. You know, if your broker or bank goes under, your record of ownership could get wiped out or frozen. And all of these things don't happen in DeFi. In DeFi, you have no public holidays, no closing working hours, and you can access liquidity from anywhere in the world. So what happened was when I resigned from Strate, I joined Consensys, which is the biggest blockchain company in the world, and they are the owners of MetaMask. And MetaMask is something that I encourage everybody here to download. You go to the website, make sure it's the right website, metamask.io, download the wallet and start playing with it. Put 100 Rand into the wallet. Get yourself acquainted with the different networks, with the different protocols, with buying and selling crypto. You don't even need an exchange. You know, the Lunas and the Valars of this world, the centralized exchanges, you don't need anything like that. You go straight into your wallet, and the wallet gives you all the functionality you need to be able to start investing in Web3 instruments or assets or whatever. So I love working for Consensys. We are only remote. We work remotely. I'm the only one in Cape Town. And not only we have MetaMask, we have MetaMask also for institutions, which is the MetaMask wallet that you give to an institution, so the institution can invest in money in DeFi, decentralized protocols, on behalf of clients. So MetaMask for institutions gives you all that functionality. We have Linear. Linear is a new layer 2. Layer 2 would be a network that you can start creating apps and very cheaply, because the layer 1 Ethereum, the gas fees are quite exorbitant at times. So we created layer 2 linear, that the gas fees are very reasonable. And there are many layer 2s now. There's we believe in a multiverse. So if you have a look at MetaMask, it's got many of the layer 2s. So we believe in open source and allowing the functionality for all these protocols to coexist. So the world belongs to the open source, decentralized, permissionless ecosystem. And that is why I joined the movement, and I'm super happy to be part of it.
Well, as you said, you joined this movement, and for a baby boomer, that's something quite exciting, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's Web3, so I want to say the word cryptic to all of us, including alphas, Gen Zers, so millennials included in that. So what was really, other than you read Satoshi's paper, what was your journey from TradFi to DeFi, or even more from Web 2 to Web 3? What did you have to change in yourself, other than reading this groundbreaking stuff, to say, okay, yes, I'm going to change. I need to learn this.
Okay, so I became a professor at university teaching blockchain and cryptocurrencies, because what happened was that I became so in love with this new technology. I thought, I need to understand. And because, can you see that my natural me, I'm a researcher. That's why I was the technical director of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, because I love research. So I started researching, and what I discovered was incredible. It was Web 1 was simply read and write. Okay, remember, I'm a boomer. So I saw the first internet, and it was very simple, very basic, and I saw the crash of the internet, hype, everything. And then I saw these Web 2 companies, the Facebook, Google, Amazon, create all these apps, and how people were joining the apps without even questioning what and using it. And then we realized that we become the product. What does it mean? All the data you share with Facebook, they're using that against you. Okay, they use it for promoting whatever they want to promote, advertising, whatever. They sell the data. We had the scandal of Cambridge Analytica. So we started learning that these Web 2 companies that we are using the technology for free, it wasn't for free, and there's a cost. So then the revolution came that we said, as developers in Web 3, we said, wait a second, never again I'm going to use a Web 2 functionality that I use my data. I'm going to keep my own data, and I'm going to actually monetize my own data. And that's where the movement started on non-fungible tokens, which was art and music and anything that you wanted to create, the creator economy, whereby it gives you the functionality that you create the NFT art, for example, and you've got a website called OpenSeas, and you put it there, and you can sell it, and you can monetize it. And you don't need an intermediary. You don't need to ask permission. You have complete freedom to have access to liquidity from anywhere in the world. So yes, as we know, this was a lot of hype, and then people lost a little bit of interest on NFTs, but trust me, that is also, it's a part of the evolution. And really the principle of Web3 is that we will not use an intermediary that will use our data. The data belongs to us. And I give you one example that is very dear to my heart, which is anything to do with medical records. The medical records, if you go to a doctor, let's say you go to a heart doctor, your heart doctor has your file, and it stays with that doctor. Then you go to an oncologist, and he's got that file about your cancer. And then you go to the gastroenterologist. He's got the file about your gastro. Guess what? There's only one body, and all these people should be talking to each other, but they don't. In the same way that you're not even able, I don't know if you know this, it's terrible, that when you have a blood test, the release of the results are not given to you until the doctor allows the release of the results. And you think, why? That is my data. That belongs to me. I should be the one given permission or otherwise to the doctors to see my data. So in future, all of this data, and medical is one example, will belong to the person issuing the data. And I'm going to be able to sell my data when I want to. I will monetize it when I want to, and I will have a wallet. We call it a wallet, an app, that will contain all this data that I will share when I want to. And that is really the evolution of the web. And that's why we call it Web 3, because it's really completely different to Web 2, because it takes the power away from the central apps in a decentralized environment, and the power goes back to the individual. And that's where the data should be, not with these other companies abusing your information. So like, for example, I find it fascinating how sometimes, you want to enter into a website and it says to you, do you want to log on with Facebook or your LinkedIn profile or your Twitter profile, or do you want to do something else? And I always say, please don't use the Web 2 profile, because that means that Web 2 profile company will know that you're now accessing this additional website. Once you go via your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn knows where you've been. So do you want that? Do you want to everybody knowing what you're doing and selling that information against you? No. So slowly but surely, people will become more educated, more empowered, and we will stop even using social media that it's centralized. So there are many, many applications that we're now using. I don't know if you heard of Farcaster, but there's many that are being created with the spirit of completely decimating Web 2 and empowering the individual to own its own data and monetize its own data. So that's really what it is. That is the language of Web 3.
So what I'm hearing is that Web 3 is looking at you use the word empowerment, but beyond that, autonomy. And that's quite a big theme for Girls in Tech as well, is looking at how can we as women help each other to be autonomous, empowered, independent. So what advice could you give to girls? I mean, just listening to the last, I don't know, let's call it 10 minutes, I've learned a lot about what Web3 is and what the real mission of Web3 is. And what advice would you give to girls who are looking to start a career in Web3, or maybe not in Web3, just in general, some really useful words of empowerment that they could carry with them?
Okay, so in reality, the technology, it's already available to empower girls. For example, you don't have to tell your boyfriend or your husband or your parents what money you have. You download your wallet and you keep it private to yourself. You just need to remember the seed phrases, which is like the password, and then you can carry this wherever in the world you are. You don't even have to, carry a USB if you don't want to. It's the seed words that you need to remember. And for me, that they mustn't be scared to start learning by doing. So the beauty is like for example, when the internet was created, like my grandmother at that time, she was very scared of sending emails, okay? So I didn't go and give her a lecture on TCP/IP and the technology and blah, blah, blah. I just gave her the keyboard. I said, Granny, put your hand here and then write as if you were writing a letter and then press send. That's all. So in the same way that I was able to teach my granny how to use the internet and send an email, I say to all of the girls in tech that the main thing is to learn by doing. Download the wallet and start practicing with 100 Rand or whatever. It's just explore the different DeFi protocols. I've done some crazy stuff, and I call it school fees. I lost some money by doing crazy stuff, but I've learned the lesson. And therefore, the beauty is you have to be knowledgeable, you have to be skeptical, read, you need to learn. For example, I've got lots of my lectures in YouTube. You just have to listen for an hour and then you'll get it, and then you'll practice. But this is the opportunity of a lifetime for all of us to become financially independent, away from the patriarchal, influence. And nobody can tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want, which is so empowering and so liberating, especially, in my generation, we were told, for example, you cannot become the CEO of a company, especially if you're a mother. You have to stay home and raise your children. So I remember every night, I've got 2 children, every night coming home, they were sleeping, I would wake up and say, am I a good mother? Am I a good mother? Or then I would say, guys, please, don't do drugs, don't do alcohol because I'm telling the whole world that you're going to be the best kids ever, even though I'm the CEO of a company and I've never seen you. You need to be okay. So that I can be a good role model. Thanks God they turned out fantastic. But society used to put huge pressure on me. It was terrible. I used to fetch the kids from school and the other mothers would go, oh, and you're not coming to rugby today? And you're not coming to the ballet today? No, I don't. I've got a board meeting. So the point is that society was really, really ugly. And I'm saying, don't let any of those naysayers to put you down, because really anybody that is born during this period, it's going to have complete freedom to achieve anything they want to achieve. It's all, the only limit is their own imagination and their own grit and their own, hunger to succeed.
That's amazing. I think beyond just your children's lives, I mean, you're an incredible example to your children, but beyond that, listening to you speak, I feel fired up. I'm like, I need to go out there after this call and I need to do something, and that's the power of listening to each other talk, giving each other, just sharing our insights and our experiences with others. And like you said, you have a lot more words of wisdom than the millennials and the Gen Zs. So thank you so much for sharing it with us and for leaving us with a bit more knowledge of this decentralization magic, which is what it is. And
it is,
changing the world one, let's call it chain at a time.
Yes.
And
Very cool.
yes, thank you for that.
And the last thing I want to say is that I promise you there's so much money out there waiting to be invested in good projects. So if you got a good idea, write a white paper. A white paper doesn't have to be 100 pages, 2 pages with your key ideas, backed by good people. And then you will find the funding, which in the past that would have been unheard of. You had to go to a bank, stand in a queue, speak to a bank manager. Never again will you have to do that. The money is available in the internet, and the VCs are there. There's so much hunger for money to find good projects. So if you've got good ideas, don't ever think that you won't be able to do it. Just do it.
Well, that's an amazing way to end. So to everyone who watches this, let's go out there and let's do it. Thank you, Monica.
Exactly. My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.